folks, welcome back. This is John Pettipas, and it's now 8:15 evening on Friday night, which is the 11th day of December. And I had a note attached to my camera holding stand. I got an idea 2 nights ago. Give a shout out to Eat Lobsters at Christmas. Give a shout out to Eat Lobsters at Christmas. Now, not all of us can afford to eat lobsters at Christmas. I can't. The way I eat, I'd need what? It's a quarter pound of meat in each 1 pound lobster, so I'd have to eat a pound of meat. I'd have to buy 4 lobsters. Anyway, but it's not economically feasible for all of us. But if you can, do it. It's better to give the money to lobster fishermen, the lobster pound, than give it to the liquor store or something foolish anyway. So eat lobsters at Christmas, a little treat. Now, I know a lot of people are in budget. If you're going to be feeding 15, 20 people and you have a turkey or something, it's not practical to give a $8 or $10 lobster to 15 or 20 people just for the protein and end up having a meal cost $300+ with all the stuff involved. That's not feasible for everybody. But anyway, it's an idea. Again, give the shout out to Eat Lobsters at Christmas instead of turkey. And this is Mr. M. Humar. He might not like hearing that, eating lobsters. Okay, of course he's lobsters. I guess he tastes good in the stomach. Tastes good in the stomach, Mr. Humar. This evening, I'm on a subject. I've thought about doing a video on this before, and I go, when I want to do something, I do it. I go forward. And I read an article in today's Halifax Herald, and I did not in Porta Peak. I mentioned it once in the video, but I feel bad about trying to build up viewership by sensationalism. That was a tragedy, and that's not what I do. Anyway, abuse report outlines retired archbishops in action. And you go through, it's an article from today's Halifax Herald, the main provincial daily, actually only provincial daily here in Nova Scotia, and it's on page A3 of today's Halifax Herald. Now, this video is going to be called Sex in the Catholic Church. And it's not meant to be anti-Catholic or anti-religion. The Catholic Church has done more to help people till pretty well, actually it was Ronald Reagan, the saintly Ronald Reagan's drug czar, I think it was the late Bill Bennett, made the comment in an interview one time. He said, the Catholic Church has done more to help other people till pretty well any organization in the course of the human history. In fact, hospitals, health nurses, universities, education, librarians, providing food, you just name it. In fact, my parents were separated. My father had a problem with liquor at one point in his life, and I can clearly remember as a teenager, worked at the Wheel Pizzeria in the daytime, or in the evening, Mr. Mansour's the daytime in the winter, and had my own fruit stand operation from spring, summer, and fall from 1976 on. So fruit stand, spring, summer, and fall, wintertime Wheel Pizzeria for some years, and Mr. Mansour's in early years during the daytime. So anyway, I remember the Knights of Columbus coming over. They got from my mother was in welfare at one point, and it's no shame. Certainly weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth. And they take in social assistance, welfare, call it what you want, and they'd ask for people, young kids, and a box, lovely Christmas package came over. I never forgot that. So if the Knights of Columbus come calling, be kind to them, donate, give them something. We didn't have a food bank, I don't think, back in those years. That goes back a ways. The Lions Club in Antigonish was very good. The Lions Club in Antigonish was fantastic. And they're a great group of fellas. Anyway, so I repeat, this is not meant to be anti-Catholic. I had a guy from Gospel Hall. His son worked with me in the sex abuse scandal in this diocese of Antigonish County, Nova Scotia, which I'm in. I'm in track of Antigonish County, and and somebody said a certain Protestant religion, well, there's Catholics, blah, blah, blah. And the gospel preacher's son looked back and he said, I told him, you guys, your church got nothing to talk about. Hey, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Sex abuse is a problem in the military, including men on men. Sex abuse is a problem in RCMP and not only RCMP, and other large city police forces. Men and men, and occasionally women on women. So that's when it's unfettered authority of people over others, unquestionable. I'm a questioner, always have been since I've been a kid in school. Anybody's going to ask a question, it's going to be John Pettipas. Anyway, well, I shouldn't say other people ask questions too, but I certainly didn't hold back if I wanted to question or clarify something. Anyway, unquestioning adherence to authority. That taken extreme is not good. We have a guy here, this parish. I'm in St. Peter's Parish, Tracadie. His fellow's name is Johnny Berry. He's supposed to be a priest, but I know so much I can't consider that guy a legitimate priest. I'm going to repeat that. I know so much I can't consider the guy a legitimate priest, in my opinion. It's my opinion. And they take and I'll call him Johnny Berry for the purpose of this video. And they take and he couldn't handle the parish. Couldn't handle the parish. I'll back up on that for a minute. They take and Archbishop is not without Archbishop of Halifax is not without considerable abilities, but it says if you go through this article, you'll see message coming in. You will see that says, well, I was auxiliary bishop. I didn't have full authority. Well, it's like Nazi Germany, or in many cases in history. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. So he couldn't handle a parish because of his personality, and Bishop Power took him in as his assistant. And he went to Sydney, and he was lined up to be bishop until Bishop in waiting, I think, the Prince of the Church, I used to hear. It's Prince of the Church. Bishop waiting until the day he had an incident with leaving the Wilco lingerie department, oversized ladies' lingerie without paying for it. It's called shoplifting. And of course, mind you, that's meek and mild. Meek and mild, that's small stuff compared to a bishop we later had, Bishop Leahy. Bishop Lee, in fact. Bishop Lee, one thing this Johnny Berry guy does good, he's not without abilities, he's not without abilities, he's a wonderful brown-noser. Extra PhD could be of it, brown-nosing. And I believe the first parish visit that Bishop Leahy made when he came here was St. Peter's Parish, Tracadie. I might be wrong then. It's one, if not the first, it was one of the first. So after when he scandal come up, Bishop Leahy, somebody who I know well, know both of them, and husband said, my God, it took a lot of courage from the priest to get up there and Sunday night mass and say, well, we face this, we face this. Well, everybody gave Bishop Colin Campbell hell. And he wasn't the most personable guy in the world. Somebody that donated a lot of money to a beloved institution in this area said he was a stubborn old Scot, and he used a few other words I can't repeat on a plate video meant for family viewing. Anyway, stubborn old Scot, we'll leave it at that. Bishop Harrow before kept transferring the priest around. And that, I'm going to stop here for a second. Please do not stop going to church because of this here. Certainly my little video is not going to stop you from going to church. Most priests are very good. They're very hardworking. They've devoted their earthly life to the priesthood for the right reason. I'm going to repeat that. Most priests and nuns are very good. They devote their earthly life to the priesthood and serving others for the right reasons. But this hear no evil, see no evil, say no evil. This is just wrong. When people, and I'm going to digress here a bit, when people know something's wrong and they don't open their mouth. Another reason prompted me to make this video tonight, there's somebody whose son died, wonderful lady, her youngest son, father passed on a few years ago. He wasn't even 60 yet. He was a young guy, relatively young man. Met him about 20-some years ago, and good fellow. He was, he died tragically earlier this week, not too far from here. And I happen to know that he was sexually abused in Montreal. And I phoned up his mother. I didn't know about it, not that I had to know, but I phoned up, and I had a little conversation with her, and pointed out that how her and her husband were wonderful parents. They did their best, and I expressed my sincere condolences at the loss, and I pray for him, which I do, to her beloved youngest son. I said, what was we got? She was teary at first, but she's very solid character. She's going to go for 100. I'm certain she will. She's a strong lady, and this is a big blow at somebody almost 90. But she's a very, very strong-willed, feisty, and good lady. After that abuse, her husband couldn't go to church anymore. He just couldn't bring himself to go to church. And sex abuse is not unique to the Catholic Church. And we will never totally eliminate it. It's a sad thing to say. You're dealing with human nature. Not be. But when it's going on repeatedly, and people that knew better didn't open their mouth, this, in my opinion, is as bad. No one can say if worse. It's at least as bad as those that were doing the perverted actions. I'm going to repeat that one too. Those that knew about it and did not and said nothing, it's at least as bad as those that it manifested. You can read this article today, and I'm not aiming this at the former Archbishop of Halifax that had many good points too, but after I read this, anyway, enough said in this one. When people see wrong, you don't need a PhD or be ordained to know the difference between right and wrong. There's right and there's wrong. None of us are perfect. Young guy that died, relative to the young man that died. Was he perfect? No. None of us are perfect. When somebody came in the store one time and said, only one that's perfect was Jesus, and I put him to death at 33. So we're all mere mortals. That said, it does something to people when it makes them very untrustful, hard to form relationships, and so on. It's not always, but it makes it tough. When somebody's abused as a kid like that, it makes it tough for people to form relationships and to trust. There's no ifs, buts about it. So there's many good priests out there, but you see somebody like in Tracadie, we have, this diocese has gone through hell, but it's persevered for a number of reasons. But when you see somebody that's up on an altar, that, I'm going to say it, that individual I just mentioned is one of the most gossipy, pettiest, newsiest individuals I've ever known. So nobody can tell me, in my opinion, that he didn't know what was going on traveling around with Bishop Hammer. I just can't. I do not buy that. And I have other information which I can't violate trust and say here. I can tell you I'm very confident, in my opinion, put it mildly, it's not only based on my opinion, that guy didn't know what was going on in this diocese, when I can name a whole number of priests that are now no longer, they've been defrocked. But people knew stuff and didn't open their mouth. None of us can make the world perfect. We're all mere mortals. But open your mouth when you see something. Okay? This is just wrong. Okay? Guy down here, he's never seen $1 he doesn't like. If he sees $1, he'll spend that plus an extra 50 cents and ask somebody to go work hard to do dinners or something to raise some money so he can spend more. Okay? Just wrong. We have a very weak, I've alluded to him before, a very weak bishop's coming here, the 10th bishop of this diocese, and he's a very weak man. It's too bad. He's academic, and academics can be kind of goofy, and not all, but many. Kind of flighty. His expression, 1 foot in the grave. Well, some people, academic, 1 foot out of reality. He spent most of the late spring and summer up in Ontario as the hard-working priests and dioceses, for the most part, did their best to keep things together. So he goes up to Ontario and doesn't. If I was in a priesthood and was appointed bishop, I darn well would be out in the trenches with the priests and deacons and all that's doing work. I wouldn't be running back to Ontario to whence I came from. Anyway, I didn't want to make this video before Christmas, but a number of factors conspired this week. This article in today's paper, the tragic death of a young age of the gentleman not too far from here. His mother actually said, what was he like as a young guy? He was an altar boy, of course. That's how he got abused. And she told me, that priest that abused him ate on my table. My mother is a fantastic cook. See why the priest, abuser or not, would want to eat at the table. He ate at the very table of the mother ate the food of the mother of the boy he was abusing. I'm certain he wasn't the only one abused. They take, and she never stopped going to church. She faithfully prays to God, as her late husband prayed to God, but he could never bring himself to go back to church. And so, one in life sometimes can only say you don't heal unless you forgive, and there's a lot of truth in that, I'm told. But that said, her husband, who was a very fine man, she was a very fine lady, couldn't bring himself to go back to church. She did. Now, think of the fate of that woman after what happened. She still faithfully goes to church. So anyway, don't stop going to church, okay, because of this video. And it's not meant to be anti-Catholic. There's abuse in anything. I do notice, though, and this is a personal observation from an early age, that academics and some universities write letters, they're a little cult of some time, and nobody wants to speak ill. Okay, they might hurt them from getting a promotion from, I don't know, associate professor to professor or dean, or getting a job in the accounting department, or getting a job in the whatever, in a certain department, university. Jobs are scarce. Good-paying jobs are scarce around here at times. You've got to kind of brown nose to get them in places like universities. So this is the birth of Jesus coming up. We celebrate Christmas. So I got to end on an optimistic note. Pray for the relatively young man that died this week. Pray for those that were sexually abused. Not all people sexually abused are publicly known. Occasionally people say they were sexually abused and they weren't. That happens the occasional time. But that said, I'm giving this here, doing this video, that when you see wrong, say something. Okay? This is just, it tries the fate. If only people knew. There's an excellent priest in Harvard Bush. He's fantastic. And we had stuff down there, and of course, he was there during the bishop, then bishop. 2 bishops ago now already, time flies. And he just did his best. And he said for those that he understood some people's fate were so tried, it was going to be difficult for them to place their fate in the organized religion again. And he knew that. He's certainly not anti-organized religion. He's a very, very faithful Catholic priest for over 30 years. And most priests are very good. And sex abuse is not unique to the Catholic Church, I've seen it in the Mormons, I've seen it in Jehovah's Witnesses, I've seen it United. You heard about the Anglican, I think the Pentecostal. There's not a large organization in the world that doesn't have some, and it doesn't justify it, but it's not meant to be an anti-Catholic video. So go to church, have faith in God, and remember the priest and altar is not God. Remember, wonderful Dutch lady is now in heaven. She had 18 priests over her years here, and she said some of them she liked more letters, and a couple she didn't think of much at all, but she went to church through all of them, said the priest wasn't God. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up on the wonderful Dutch lady up in heaven. Say a prayer for all of us this evening. And now it is, I've been on this video now for about almost 18 minutes, so I've gone on longer than I normally would. With that, I wish you all the best. God bless. A happy, holy, peaceful Christmas season. And if you can't afford lobster, well, maybe have some for New Year's. How's that? Take the money you would have spent on something else at New Year's, since you can't travel as much right now, and buy lobsters for New Year's. How's that? Buy lobsters for New Year's when all the relatives go back home. I'm not advocating being selfish, but when you don't have 15 or 20 around the dinner table and it's just a handful of you and your favorite auntie or grandmother or mother-in-law, then you can have lobsters. With that, I got to go. Thank you very much. Good night now. All the best.